Hi guys, welcome to OzCon Virtual 2021. I'm Colin, your chair of OzCon International. I'm joined today by the lovely Jane Albright, president of the International Wizard of Oz Club. Hi Jane.
Hello, good to see you, Colin.
See you too. How's it going?
Wonderfully, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're usually regulars anyway at OzCon, so it's great to have you on video today to explain a little bit about the Oz Club to people who might be wanting to join. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you become president and what the Oz Club is all about?
That was a big opening line. You're going to have to put that hook around my neck here at some point. I joined the Oz Club in 1971, which is not to say that it takes 50 years to become the president, but I've had a progression of involvement with the club now for 5 decades.
Wow.
I started attending conventions back in the 70s before I was old enough to drive, and have continued to particularly enjoy the convention aspects of the Oz Club. Through the years, I've edited our children's newsletter, the Oz Gazette. I've written a lot for the Bugle. I've been deeply involved in the conventions. They matter so much to me that that's something I will do anything to get to continuing. The people I've met through the club have been the best and most memorable parts of my involvement through the years. And it's by attending live events or virtual until we can do live ones again that you really start to form the kind of lifelong friendships that the Oz Club has brought into my life.
Absolutely. With OzCon and being an Oz Club member, my friends for the club and for the convention are long lasting now that I would never have made some friendship without attending to a convention. So it's a big thing for me. So I completely get that. How long has the club been around for then, Jane?
The club was founded in 1957. At the time, Justin Schiller was 13 years old.
Wow.
He had acquired Jack Snow's correspondence files, which included fan letters from young readers, because at that point, Jack Snow was the official Royal Historian of Oz, writing Oz books for Riley and Lee. And Fred Meyer, who also corresponded with Jack, encouraged Justin to write other like-minded fans and form the club. And so he did. His first bomb bugle is like stapled together pieces of typed paper. Very, very plain, very simple. And I continued that way for quite a few years. Dick Martin quickly became involved as a designer and artist himself. He was able to enliven the publication greatly with covers and eventually bringing color to it. And once Justin moved on to college, other adults within the earliest years of the club, some of those very first members, stepped in and took over, and it's been going strong ever since. The first conventions were held in, I think, 1961, very shortly after the club was formed, at Oscott Lodge. Wow. That was a resort on Bass Lake in Indiana that was owned by one of Frank Baum's sons and his wife. And we met there for years, then eventually moved to Castle Park, Michigan, where Brenda Baum, after Harry had died, she became the resort manager at Castle Park. So we followed her from Oscott to the castle, and that's where the conventions were when I first began attending. Cool. We started publishing publications in the late 60s with Animal Fairy Tales. That had been a book that Baum thought would be collected and published posthumously, and the publishers objected on the grounds that the original illustrations, which were done for a magazine, were too difficult to reproduce. So it went unpublished for decades until the Oz Club made it available. Then we got into the bibliography. We saw a lot of collectors, lots of collectors in the club. And the early book collectors worked on creating a bibliography, a guide to helping people identify what edition Oz book they have. And since then, we've gone on to produce or publish fiction, both from early Oz writers who were still with us at the time to a few books by modern writers today. We published a recent, well, it isn't recent now, I guess, maybe 10 years ago, a collection of short stories of L. Frank Baum in a single volume. So publishing is a big part of the club. We do have a wonderful collection. It's primarily original artwork and extremely valuable rare books that all of these things have been donated to the club. And very infrequently, because we're concerned about protecting it, pieces of artwork have been loaned to some various art exhibits around the country, which has always been kind of fun.
Fabulous.
I'm trying to think, what other aspects of the club have I not mentioned?
Well, I guess from the club, there's a lot of publications. You reissued quite a few of the L. Frank Baum books and some of the Thompson books at later stages and some of the additional authors. So there's quite a few of those books still available, isn't there, through the Oz Club website, is my understanding.
There are our shopping website is shopozclub.org, and that's also where you purchase memberships. But all of our publications are available there. We do have some that are print on demand now through Lulu, yes, primarily because we can offer more titles if we don't have to have cases of them piled in a volunteer's property doing order fulfillment. And our main goal is not to create collectible rare volumes, but simply to get the stories themselves or whatever the information is out there and available to people. So print on demand has worked really well for us for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years.
Oh, cool. So what would it, if you were a new member then, so if someone doesn't really know much about the club or might have just heard a little bit about the club, what do you get as part of your membership?
The Baum Bugle, which I see right over your shoulder. you have the Glinda issue right there on the shelf. Yeah. That was the winter 2020 issue. The Baum Bugle comes out 3 times a year. It is articles, primarily, also reviews, news items. We focus on trying to find, we're not usually publishing something that's already been available. So this is original writing created for the Bugle or writing that has not been previously published. We're looking at everything, well, like that Glinda issue. Michael Patrick Hearn wrote a wonderful essay about the original book. Dina Masacci, who's also an OzCon regular and one of your frequent presenters, wrote a wonderful essay about Lena Horne, who was Glinda in The Wiz. There's an article about some original artwork in the Oz Club collections of Glinda. The cover is an unpublished Dick Martin illustration that was an alternative design for Glinda. So that particular themed Glinda issue covers, art, theater, the book, appreciations, just a lot of stuff. And another issue will come along. We recently did one that was a beautiful photo shoot featuring Broadway stars in costumes that were styled to be an homage to the Wizard of Oz. We had an interview with Stephen Schwartz on the cover a few years ago now from All About Wicked. There's just been a variety of topics, and we try to cover them all because Oz fans come in all flavors. We have people who want to wear their MGM airbrushed blazer and their flying monkey fez and just have fun, and cosplayers. I know the OzCon in particular really emphasizes its costume party every year. And then we also have people who are really academic and they look at Oz as literature and really want to study it. So we attempt with the Bugle to give at least a little bit of all of those things to our members so we can reach a really broad range of Oz fans.
I think as an Oz fan myself, and then being involved in running things like the Oz Convention and a club member, people do ask me, what is it about it as Oz? And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's so wide and varied. I just filmed yesterday, which will be on the OzCon website as well, ready for OzCon. Interview yesterday with
someone whose name you forgot.
Yeah. With Angelica, who's behind me on the bookshelf, about Matilda Jocelyn Gage, who, when you speak about Oz, people just to think, well, why would you be speaking about this woman who's a suffragette? And then it's starting to understand that the detail that many of us go into goes beyond Oz. It's the writers, it's the influences of the different people. There's so many aspects that we take, and then yet we can pivot and go, right, we're going to do 35-year anniversary of Return to Oz, right? We're going to do a 100-year anniversary of a book by Ruth Plummer Thompson. I love all of that diversity, and it's the same with the Bugle. I think the Bugle before this one was the Return to Oz special that was done for last year, and it's a varied and huge world, and people just don't always realize it. So if you're just discovering Oz, there's so much to discover. The Bugle's a really good aspect to find out how wide-reaching people's views are and the essays that there are out there. And the Bugle goes way, way back to the 60s, doesn't it, as well, Jane?
Oh yeah, since 1957, when it was just, 6 little mimeograph pages stapled together, mailed to 14 people. Now it's much more substantial. The covers, the interior and exterior covers are in color. And with that Return to Oz issue, because we were provided by Disney, a Disney archivist is who wrote the cover story for that issue, with some previously unpublished set design concepts that were especially striking. We used the budget to produce that issue to put color images inside the pages, which we haven't done very often. The Bugle is generally black and white with color covers, but we did it that way. We also have the children's newsletter. Nick Campbell, one of your fellow Brits.
Yeah, downloaded. I've met Nick a few times. He's a great guy.
He edits our children's newsletter for us. The direction he's taking it is as if it was a newspaper coming to you from Oz.
Yeah.
So that's fun and clever and involves a lot of creative writing. David Kelleher, speaking of clever and creative, gives us some kind of like a color copy paste cutout project for younger members and people who just like doing those sorts of projects with every issue. This is reminding me, we do, Oziana is our publication of original fiction that we produce every year. Mm-hmm. And to help fill it, we run contests for fiction, nonfiction, writing, and art every year. And we forward the fiction entries on for consideration in Oziana and the nonfiction entries for consideration in the Bugle. No guarantee they'll be accepted and used there. That's completely the editor's call. But it's a fun way, and they're cash prizes. So it's kind of fun to be able to encourage people to do their own work at expanding the land of Oz and getting it to us.
And it's nice to get a published piece of work as well, whether it be in the Bugle or in Oziana. So is Oziana within the same tier? Is there a particular tier to have the Bugle and Oziana if you were to be a new member?
The way Oziana works, anyone can buy it on Lulu. It's maybe $8. Mm-hmm. People who donate to the club when they join, because there are people who join donating, making a $250 donation. Basically, the membership is $30, basic membership. Youth membership's $15, basic membership's $30. That is a media rate, media mailing postage rate here in the States. So people often bump up to $50 level, which gets them first class postage, and you get it a little faster. Mm-hmm. And then we have levels at $100, $250, and $500, where we add things to your membership. Yeah. The Oz Club calendar, every year we produce a calendar to a particular theme. Mm-hmm. And we have Oziana every year. So those become membership premiums. And the calendar can't be purchased separately. The only way to get that is by being one of our upper tier members.
So it's basically, there's a membership for all levels of affordability, really. I mean, sure. I have an international membership, which I think is about $50 because there's extra costs with postage. Yeah. But to be honest, the Bugle usually arrives with me before sometimes some people in the US. So being international doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the Bugle any more slowly, because I often have many Oz friends and they'll usually say on Facebook when they've received their copy, and some will get it before and some will get it at the same time as me.
Yeah. And, we're really not pocketing money when we charge extra for postage. I mailed a couple copies of the Bugle to Bermuda once when an article I'd written about Denslow Island, when the illustrator of The Wizard of Oz bought an island in Bermuda. I mailed a couple copies to my Bermuda contacts. It was like $13 to mail an issue there. I just recently mailed an Oz friend who's a girlfriend in Italy some stickers that she found for sale in the United States, and they wouldn't even ship them to Italy. So she shipped them to me. I shipped them to her. $28 to mail that envelope. So we really would like to have more international members, and I'm sorry that it is such a financial hurdle, but it really does add up.
Yeah, no, it's not cheap to mail to the States from the UK and vice versa. So that little bit extra is purely around the mailing costs, which I totally get. At the end of
No,
the day, you get in a nice printed magazine and the post coming out 3 times a year with bespoke Oz articles.
we have this particular year, since Oziana is 50 years old, it was first launched in 1971. Every Saturday, some Oz Club member is reading a story from a past issue of Oziana on our YouTube channel. Sometimes that is the author of the story. In some cases, the author is no longer with us or isn't comfortable or can't use a camera to be recording. So we have volunteers reading some of them. So you can get a flavor of what Oziana's like through the Oz Club's official YouTube channel. And we also have a talk show that Oz Talk that Brian J hosts with people I'm sure OzCon knows all of them. Garrett Kilgore has, I know, been to OzCon, Victoria Calamito, Julius Johnson, and Zoe O'Hallen Byrne, who runs the Spirit of Oz character cast. But the 5 of them get on and talk about all kinds of Oz topics every other week. So those are things that people can enjoy without postage, without membership, without anything. That is currently available free through our YouTube channel.
Yeah, YouTube is pretty much, I think, for both the club and for OzCon, become suddenly our main way of contacting people during COVID-19. And I think pretty much is here to stay now, because there isn't actually a ton of Oz material out there on YouTube. So we're both definitely filling that void now.
Last summer, when we had to do our first virtual convention, it was in the same position OzCon was in. The club is in a slightly different position than you guys are in, because for years we had 3 conventions: East Coast, Midwest, West Coast. West Coast is what's morphed into what is now evolved into being OzCon International. But here in the Midwest and the East Coast, there are as many as 15 annual public Oz festivals that people can attend. And a public festival is generally supported by the community because it brings in literally thousands of people, has a big economic impact on the community. So the hotels and the restaurants and the businesses all get together and sponsor all of the expenses. When we do club conventions and OzCon conventions, the registration fee needs to cover those same expenses. And it's just really hard. You know, I'm sitting here in Kansas City, Missouri. I spend a couple $100s as a registration fee to go to a convention in addition to, you know, expenses. Well, I can just drive 2 hours to the one in Wamego, and I can drive 2 hours to the one in Macon, Georgia. I'm sorry, Macon, Missouri, that's coming up the end of August. And so for a lot of fans, they just don't want to buy a ticket to something that's going to cost them hundreds of dollars. So we kind of had our East and Midwest conventions cannibalized by all of the free public events. And that means our convention goes from location to location, trying to find destinations that we think Oz fans would really like to see. And that gives you an opportunity to come with other Oz fans to tour some of the destinations around the country that have ties to Oz. And we've been doing that now since 2007.
And that'll be great when that's back. I think you guys are hoping to be back next year like OzCon is. And I think, fingers crossed, things are looking promising for next year with COVID, but never say never. But I know all of us can't wait to be face-to-face again, because we love virtual. It's nice to be able to do, there's some things we can do differently virtually. And I think there'll always be a version of virtual to stay. But there is something about coming together as a group of Oz fans, discussing Oz, looking at the different presentations and meeting people. It's just something you can't quite 100% replicate online in the kind of friendships you forge and individual conversations.
We put all this effort into planning it. I mean, Ragney, our current chairman, has been planning this convention for, it was going to be in 20, then it was going to be in 2021. Now it's off to 2022. Clear back in 2018, she was doing reconnaissance trips to East Aurora, New York, to find venues and find caterers and find hotels and everything we needed to have this arts and crafts focused. And by that, I mean the arts and crafts movement, not, you know, convention that deals with the arts of Oz. We have a church locally with all these beautiful Tiffany windows that is an acoustic gift. And one of our members has a whole evening of Oz music, Bob Lamont. He's going to do for us in that environment. We have a poetry reading that Bill Thompson's organizing because we want arts to be more than illustrators.
Yeah.
W.W. Dinslow had been the first artist invited to be a member of the Roycroft community there in East Aurora. And as a result, we wanted to focus on him and his work. We have hands-on classes. John Arneal's granddaughter's coming to do an instructional class on how he illustrated and inked. It's, I'm expecting it to just be a really fun convention, and I've been expecting it now since 2018. It's like, oh God, I just want it to happen. There are two there. It's really tough waiting, putting it off another year, and yet the risks are just a little bit too high.
Yeah, it will come. So I'm assuming then if people will be watching this in July when it's live at OzCon. So you guys have a virtual this year coming up?
Yes, the first weekend in August, and I should have looked up the dates. I'm going to say it's August 6 to 8. Since I've been quoting the dates for this convention now for 3 separate years, I'm always needing to look at the calendar and confirm that. But that is our current plan. We'll open it Friday night with dedicating a permanent memorial stone to W.W. Dinslow at the Appian Way there at Roycroft, followed by a reception at the Roycroft Inn. And then we have the board of directors meeting is all day Thursday. So, we have to work things together.
Yeah.
And then we have Friday and Saturday full of programming and the auction and just a whole lot going on. We go into Sundays when we have hands-on classes that are optional for people who want to actually use book plates that printed illustrations in the Wizard of Oz, in the Oz books.
Yes.
I think one from Patchwork Girl of the Woozy. I'm not sure which the other one was, but we're going to use the Roycroft presses and in Roycroft tradition, press and hand embellish plates using Riley Lee printing plates.
Oh, brilliant.
And Jory's class with inking, and we'll learn how to bind books the way Roycroft did it. It should just be a really fun weekend.
Oh yeah, that sounds really, really different. I look forward to finding out more about that when we get closer to.
Well, we really want people to appreciate the location, since the destination is a lot about where we go. We've been to the Banner Elk Land of Oz in North Carolina, which is the most extraordinary experience. We went up to Makatawa when we went to where Baum had his summer cottage. We visited the yacht club that he was a member of. We went out and stomped around on the grounds where his cottage itself had actually been. We took a sailboat out on the lake, or a cruise sailing boat out on the lake where he and his sons had a little sailboat. We toured the castle where we used to meet, really explored the area and got a feel for what summering in Makatawa was like for L. Frank Baum. We've been to the Oz Museum in Kansas, in Wamego, which is my backyard. So I'm there pretty regularly, just destinations around the country. Occasionally a member, as in 2019, David Dykett, who's also a pretty regular OzCon International attendee.
Oh yeah.
He set up a massive exhibit near his home in Louisiana. So we all went down there so we could participate in that exhibit as sort of the cornerstone of that particular convention. So we try to get around. We also try to be where sooner or later we'll be near enough to you that you can drive to us. Chicago is kind of middle for everybody. Chittenango, New York is a little further out there, but there's a lot of Oz fans in central New York State. So
I think if you're an Oz fan and if you've really researched and know bits about the authors, whilst I haven't managed to get to some of the club meetings yet, and that's only purely because I live in England, so I've usually got one shot at a convention, and I've been heavily involved organising OzCon, kind of weights me towards that at the moment. But when you walk places, say San Diego in L. Frank Baum's shoes, and you go to Coronado Island near the house where he stayed, and at the Coronado Hotel, there is just something about being able to do that, not just as an Oz fan, but with other Oz fans. There is just a level of magic to your fandom that comes alive in these experiences that you really cannot explain, but it brings me back again and again and again. And I guess it brings yourself and me back as organizers as well.
Well, one of our best conventions was in Philadelphia. Ruth Plumley Thompson was from there, as was John R. Neal, Maxfield Parrish, Charlie Santori. There was a lot of emphasis in the Philadelphia area, and Ryan Bunch, our current vice president, and his husband Micah co-chaired this extraordinary convention. So here we are, a busload of Oz fans, pulling up to Ruth Plumley Thompson's house and lining up to go stand by the historical marker at her front door for our photos. It's just really fun to get together and have those kind of Oz experiences with other fans.
Oh yeah.
I see the club as an extension of that. We stay in contact through the year in other ways. We're certainly doing more online, but and then since the convention last summer, every month or 6 weeks or so, we've had a little get together on Zoom that's maybe 40 to 70 people that will have a topic. I interviewed Michael Patrick Hearn a couple of weeks ago at Baum's birthday. Well, your audience is hearing this in July, but from when we're recording it, it was a couple of weeks ago. But I recorded Michael Patrick Hearn for L. Frank Baum's birthday, and that was just sort of like I listened to the interview session. The time before that, we had an Oz cabaret, and everyone who sings submitted pre-recorded performances of themselves performing, and we sort of had an Oz cabaret night. In February, we used a Tin Man theme, so it was everything from Tin Man bingo to Valentine show and tell, and just all kinds of stuff. It gives us a good way to interact with one another over the course of the year, and I think we'll keep that going even when the in-person conventions are able to resume.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think the virtual is definitely here to stay. I keep on saying on the OzCon ones that I've got it's going to end up being hybrid, isn't it? We're going to have the in-person and we're going to have the virtual. I don't think these are going to disappear now, because they are a way of staying connected with each other and Oz fans, but also there's a core of Oz fans that can only make these virtual conventions as well. So we might as well keep that going, because it's definitely one of the positives of COVID.
One of the advantages of having this virtual experience the last year or so is that we've learned that you can get together on Zoom like this, record an interview, and play it live when you couldn't get together in person to be able to do that, even if everyone else is watching, just the hosts, the special guests. So I am assuming that once we're back to in-person conventions, we will periodically Zoom in someone who's unable to attend, or that we just couldn't afford to bring in, which is, another issue with some of the celebrity guests that we might have, and be able to have sort of hybrid conventions.
Yeah, I was really happy this convention to bag Scotty Young. I don't think there's any way we would normally be able to bag him in Perth, but he's been able to just take some time out to do a recording for this Oz convention, which normally would be really tight for him to do in his schedule for the Marvel Oz series. All right, so I guess because we're starting to come towards the end of this interview, so I think before we get there, Jane, another great aspect of the conventions and the club is that you get to meet people, and very often they bring along elements of their collection, and you've got a fabulous Oz collection behind you. So would you maybe want to point out a few of your Oz artifacts and discuss?
Sure. The whole third floor of my house is full of Oz. And whenever I do Zooms, I try to do them from a different corner of the room, so it's not always the same old. And this is the first time I've tried sitting next to this case. Now I'm going to have to see, because I'll have to point things ahead to get with the camera. This is a long glass case. It's maybe 6 foot, and it is full of things that are pre-1939, and many of them are exceptionally scarce. I have, of course, all the things are where you can't see them in the back. The boxed jigsaw, the boxed Jello puzzles, little jigsaw puzzles that came out, the wonderful Library of Oz box set of miniature books, my pile of wonderful Game of Oz board games is in that corner. But like, here's a little stack of the Christmas stocking books with a box pair and the little trunk box that has 6 tucked into it. Up here in a corner, if you can see it, there's a standing box set of the Laura Bancroft, Bonds Laura Bancroft books. They all have dust jackets, and so far, which does not mean this is the case forever, but so far no other collector has popped up with that particular set, so I'm really thrilled to have that. Of course, Rob Roy's Tin Man bookcase up here holding the Del Rey's. There's a little cookie box in here with a string on the top that promoted the original Broadway production somewhere after it appeared on Broadway in 1903. In mine, Dorothy has her arm around Imogen, the cow, who accompanied her to Oz, and they're meeting the Scarecrow, and there's a little door panel in the card that when you open it, you see the Scarecrow off the pole, but when it's closed, he's on the pole.
Oh, fabulous.
Little treat boxes made for all the different characters, I believe. I have a little spinning game where the Wizard of Oz answers questions video in here, a little collapsible cup that was a premium in 1903, as well as the box that it came in.
Wow.
Tin horns, bookmarks, the Wogglebug game of conundrums, a darling little mobile of the Flying Gump from Visitors of Oz. Just lots of fun things.
I'd even some of the things in the background. I can spot there's the Kermit Scarecrow over in your window from Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, Scarecrow and Tin Man from the Muppets are sitting on top of one of the screen-used Muppet houses back there in a window well. And then, can you see that red rink-a-tink doll? Let's see.
Yeah, I can just about make that out in the background.
This darling fat little rink-a-tink doll that was handmade by a doll artist and was in Theo Carson's collection. One of the things that's most special to me is I associate all this stuff with the people that made it or got it to me or somehow associated with it. And Theo was just a precious, dear friend. This wonderful Library of Oz, which is this big boxed set, I found this on a Craigslist ad in Minneapolis. And I wrote the guy and swallowed hard. He wanted to make an offer, and I had no idea if he had any idea what this was worth. But every time I bid, I'd had to stop bidding at 1,000. So I offered him $500 on the phone, and I got this long pause. I'm thinking, oh, is he thinking it's worth that much? Or is he thinking, oh man, I want it more? I didn't know, but he said yes. But then he told me he wouldn't take cash. He would only take cash, not credit, and he wouldn't ship it. And he's in Minneapolis. This is like, 8, 12 hours away. So I'm on the phone calling Bill Campbell. Bill, because he's in Minneapolis, would you go give this guy $500 in a parking lot? And right beside it, the jigsaw puzzles are the same thing. Melissa Tonneson went and picked them up for me at a flea market that wouldn't get them to me otherwise.
You wouldn't be surprised the amount of times Oz friends ask me, go, hey, this guy won't ship from England to the US. Can you please? Yeah, I've done that on more than a few occasions for some friends.
So I have a whole lot of sentimental attachments. You can't see it because it's off screen, but I have one original John Coulter piece right here that's I can look out of my right eye. And his print in the green frame, Stratosphere, that's the first piece of John's I bought. And he was on Etsy with it. When I saw the return address was from LA, I told him about an art gallery that was doing an Oz themed exhibit at the time. He wound up having like 7 pieces put in it. A whole cast of friends of his wore his Wicked costumes to the opening, and John's just been a part of the Oz community ever since. And
he's a lovely guy. He was at OzCon a couple of years ago as well. He does some fabulous artwork and just very lovely guy.
Last summer for our virtual convention, he started pandemic by doing what he called crappy crafts, and he toilet paper rolls and make things out of them. So I asked him if he'd do a craft, but it didn't have to be a crappy craft, but just a craft for our thing. And he made a darling little hot air balloon ornament and showed us all how. Just really personable, fun man. Trying to think of other things. There's a little, I don't know if you probably can't make it out, but there's a little pewter button, a little nail head actually that looks like a goose.
Just about to get out.
Off of an original. It's, there was an original that Justin Schiller had, and Dick Martin made a casting off of it and created some replicas, and Patty Tobias had one, and Patty Tobias let me make a replica off hers, and Mike Bosworth made this one for us. So, but we have these little pewter nails made. Baum had made them initially, the original ones, and finished furniture with them at his Sign of the Goose cottage in Nakatoa. So I'm thrilled to have one of those. There's things like the Wogglebug game cards and Castorine ads and one little music box disc. Quite a few fun things in here. When a collector like you comes to my house, this is usually the case they want to see.
Yeah.
They're not interested in Star Wars cookie jars or Franklin Mint dolls or some of these things that I have that are more made for collectors to collect. It's the ephemera that's managed to survive that people want to get over by and see.
And one year I do intend to come and have a route around your attic and have a look at your family Oz collection for sure. It will happen at some point.
That would be great. I am trying to narrow down some of the things that I probably shouldn't have bought in the first place, or I have duplicates, or I bought a whole lot of stuff to get one piece that I wanted, and then now I have all these other things because I'm kind of hemmed in at this point, and it would be nice to have a little bit more space up here.
I
But I think that happens to all Oz collectors.
Oh yeah, and it's harder for us over here in England to get the stuff. Most of my goodies come back with me from one of the conventions, or have come from the International of Oz Club and various places. But it pales in comparison to most of your guys' huge collections, because you have more access to Oz ephemera from whether it be flea markets and bookstores and all that kind of stuff. So I'm always slightly in awe. But I get it. Go on.
Colin, the best stuff comes from knowing other collectors.
Yeah.
It's like, I will know someone's looking for something and I have two of them and I will give it or sell it to them. And I would rather do that than just hoard it, and a whole lot of the things that I have around, I only have because the little lamp that's lit up back there of the Figure Laws characters was a gift from Willard Carroll. I saw it online and said, "Oh, Willard, you've already got this. So like, if I bid, you're not going to bid against me, are you?" And he said, "Well, actually, I think the colors on that one are better than mine," or something. So he bought it, and then he got it and he decided he liked the colors on the one he already had better anyway. So he sent it to me as a present. Oh, wow. So every time I see that, I'm thinking of Willard.
Just even being connected. This Laughing Dragon of ours you were responsible for me for getting this. So you did put on Facebook that it was only $25. And at the time, I didn't have a copy, and you couldn't get one for less than 100 and above. And I snagged it, so it does really help.
Yeah, I was looking because I thought I had a copy of Laughing Dragon in here, but it's back there on a shelf. Then even fun stories for me. I was at OzCon. The auction had this particular little figure of a walking Tin Man, just a little wind up, and not the old Mark's one, something newer, but I didn't have one. Well, Mark Heilman was bidding. Well, I love Mark. I'm not going to outbid him on something. So for years, I would look at my Scarecrow and Cowardly Lion and think, well, I'd have the Tin Man, except I'd rather have Mark as a friend, so it's okay. And even now, I have the Tin Man. I can see him from where I'm sitting, and I see him and I think of Mark. There's just a whole lot of pieces that remind me of the story of the collector who helped me make it mine. And it adds a great deal of sentimental value to me with the pieces that I have around.
Yeah, I get that. It's very similar with some of my collectibles, or I've got quite a lot of Eric Shanower's work, and when he's signed it for you and you've hung out together, it just adds on another layer to your collectibles. It's really hard to kind of articulate that without doing that yourself.
Eric has the patience of a saint. He and Michael Hearn have both been in this position where they're at my home, and I bring down everything I have that they contributed to that they haven't already signed, and the pile will like go from the floor to the arm of their chair, and they're just working their way through it, signing things generously. I've gone to instances where Gregory Maguire was doing a public signing, and it's like, here's my $9. I'll wait at the end of the line, it's okay. But then that's another thing, knowing Gregory Maguire, how would I have ever met him? I mean, there's so many people through the club that I have come to know and consider friends that our paths would not have crossed otherwise.
Oh yeah, Oz totally connects. That's why I chose the name for the OzConnection and things like that. It really has so many Oz and the Oz Club. It connects us in with so many people that you would never ever come across and meet. Yeah,
I can't agree with you more on that one. Published authors. I remember the first time I ever met a published author related to Oz was in 1989. Todd Machin, who is a dear friend locally in Kansas City. I collected Oz books. I was really nothing but a book collector. And Todd hardly knew that there were Oz books. All he was interested in was costume replication and 1939 marketing and all these fun things. Well, we put our collections together for a big 50th anniversary exhibit and invited guest speakers, and people were in town to present. Well, Steve Cox was one of them. So and we have some little munchkins there, Fern Formica and Margaret Pellegrini. So Todd has said, come over to the house, you can meet the munchkins, and Steve will be here, and da, da, da. So I go over, and my first impression of Steve, he and Todd are in the kitchen dyeing Todd's friend's Diana's hair red in the kitchen sink. So here's Steve and Todd with the rubber gloves. And it's like, wait a minute, you dye hair? Well, no, but we're figuring it out as we go along. Because Diana was going to be Glinda, and darned her, she wasn't going to be a redhead to do it. The costume was made to fit her. I'll have to send you a picture in case you want to insert it here as extraordinary.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So here I'm not only meeting someone whose books I've, owned and read and thought were wonderful, but I'm meeting him in a completely informal and, as it happened, kind of crazy situation.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, no, I many stories I can think of, sometimes some that can never ever be spoken of, but yeah, it's very personable. And thank you so much for sharing your collection with us. It gives everyone a kind of feel, I guess, for how someone can have a really broad Oz collection of different things, from books to film ephemera to things that are meaningful for you from the club and the conventions.
I look around and it's Oz Club publications and Funko toys and clothing from Japan. It's just wonderful. My international collection is one of my favorite parts of the collection, because there are so many extraordinary pieces, and they're hard to find because they're distant, but they're not always expensive because they aren't always terribly sought after or collected in their countries of origin. Yeah. And it makes a really fun way to collect original artwork, although I don't have much. What I do have, I'm really pleased to have too.
There's never-ending collection, for sure.
Yeah. And always a want list, always more.
So to finish off then, if you want to join the Oz Club, what would the web address be, Jane?
If you want to go straight to joining, you can go to shop.ozclub.org, shop.ozclub.org. And there's a membership category there with links to the membership levels. If you'd like more information about the club, that is at ozclub.org. And it's quite possible by the time this is airing to your convention that our new website will be launched. And I can't even tell you what all you'll find there, because it's being developed as a new and much more robust website for us. So ozclub.org, lots of information and internet activity there, and shopozclub.org if you are already ready to go straight.
I will post the links down below for you in the details if you want to go and check that out. Thank you so much for joining us, Jane. I can't wait to meet in person again soon at one of the next Oz conventions. Fingers crossed 2022 will be our year for that again.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I would even be comfortable doing something now, because I've been vaccinated since March, but I'm not comfortable inviting other people in case it's taking a risk for them. It's just, and we had to make the decision a couple months ago in order to have deposits and whatnot made. And it was just at that point, we had no idea how quickly vaccinations would go or what we might run into.
Yeah, and it was the same really in California. California was in a really bad position a couple of months ago, to the point where we had to make the decision and go, it's not the right time right now. Things are only just reopening over there, and it's so a little bit precarious. Plus borders are not open, so I can't even get to the US at the moment until the borders change.
We had situations like, yes, you can have your reception, but everyone will have to stay seated.
Yeah.
At a reception, yes, you can have your exhibit in the museum, but you can only have 10 people in the room at a time. You can have tours of the campus, but family groups of 3 or more. And if you're not related to someone, then they have to do it one at a time. Dinner tables ordinarily seat 8 or 10 would have 3 people in a triangle to keep them apart. That's not the kind of warm, friendly, eager to know you dynamic that the Oz Club conventions are all about. And we just couldn't be confident that that wouldn't have changed by the early part of August.
Yeah, I totally get that. To not be able to cavort and be social and be merry is a big part of the conventions. And once we don't need to socially distance in the same way, then we're back in the right place. And I think we're getting there. We just need to slowly unravel. And we're all same as you. I'm vaccinated. Quite a few of us are vaccinated now, but not everybody is. And the social distancing rules need to relax a little bit. But everything crossed.
Absolutely. Well, Colin, thank you so much for having me. I often tell people that Usually instead of asking to talk about Oz, I'm asked to please stop talking about Oz. So it's always a pleasure to have an invitation, and I appreciate it. I hope your watchers have considered the Oz Club, and if not, that they would now. We'd love to have you as members.
Absolutely. And again, I'll post the links down below. Thank you so much, Jane, for joining us. Both of us never would stop talking about Oz. Often with friends who ask, oh, tell us about Oz, and then within 2 minutes they've glazed over. But for us as Oz fans, it never gets old. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of OzCon, guys, and have a look on the YouTube and the schedule for more OzCon events coming on. This video is posted on the Friday the 16th. If you're watching this on Friday the 16th, tomorrow we are live 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. PDT California time. See you around, comment down below, and join in the Oz conversation.